Hello everyone and welcome back to another album review. And in this video I'm going to review When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go by Billie Eilish. This is the hyped and highly anticipated debut from Billie Eilish. After the release of the EP Don't Smile at Me, Billie Eilish opened a brand new mark for the indie pop culture, and in a really short period of time she has actually managed to be one of the most popular and one of the most talked about pop stars currently. Of course, there's a lot of coverage from media surrounding the whole persona and the whole attitude of Billie. Being a really young singer only at the age of 17, Billie comes from a family where her bigger brother is a producer who is also the one that was behind the production in pretty much the entirety of the album. And so for Billie, for being at such a young age at the part of music industry, had as a result a lot of negative discussions as industry plant, which even if that's the case, to even use that term, she's not the first artist to be born in the music industry and she's not going to be the last. And in my opinion there is no reason to bring this up, because everything comes down to whether this album is going to be good or not. You don't need to be an industry plant to release a good music or even have a good voice. And it's not like every industry plant stays. There are a lot that have been disappeared after a hit or two. And it probably couldn't be easy for Billie herself to just comprehend all this fame. And in occasions like this, you might have a lot of pressure behind you. Now, when it comes to her music, which is the most important part and the only one that should be talked about, her first EP was not really my cup of tea. Not because it was an indie pop EP. I mean, there are some occasions where I might truly find some really quality and really nice indie pop records, as the one that you can see right there that I have on vinyl. But Billie Eilish, in my opinion, hasn't delivered that something new and special in the genre. Her voice just sounds a lot like another Lana Del Rey or another Lorde, or having that sense of edginess and immaturity from artists like Halsey and Melanie Martinez. And even though I do like some of this edgy appeal, which also comes to some of the distorted and weird parts in the production, instrumentally the EP did nothing special for me as well. Now, when it comes to her new album, I actually got immediately into it without having heard a single teaser track. And so I just wanted to see how this whole thing could flow together. And to be honest, from my first listen, I was highly disappointed. I pretty much didn't find a single thing that I would enjoy out of this album, with a big exception of one single song, and that is You Should See Me in a Crown. And so let's start with the most positive thing about this album. I really love this song. From the first time I've heard of it, this is what I wanted from the new Billie Eilish album. The production on this song is excellent. I do like the dark atmosphere of the song, and the most important part is that it has this incredible build-up from a really smooth and well put together part to an amazing drop, and it's by far the most intense and the most hard-hitting banger on this entire album. The wobble bass is excellent, and Billie's vocals fit really well to the aesthetic of the song, and also this effects coming to the chorus where it feels like there is a second voice which is low pitch shifted, but it's also another sort of synth sound. It gives the whole song a really nice and special approach. If only the rest of the album had such great moments like this, we would be talking about an incredible album with some really cutting edge production and ideas for a pop album. Unfortunately, the rest of the album goes to a bit of a more mellow side of things. It's more smooth, and while it has some interesting moments here and there with some experimental features on the production with some distorted bass that remind me of something out of Jesus, there are still other songs that sound like your typical generic ballads, which don't even really fit with the whole context of the album. Now, despite my major disappointment the first time I heard of this album, I would say that actually some of the tracks have kind of grown on me a bit more. I felt like I was way too harsh the first time I listened to it, and I got to at least appreciate some of its moments, especially when it comes to some of the cutting edge production, which in my opinion her brother did an excellent job of providing some really interesting and out there beats and melodies. The song You Should See Me in a Crown gets better and better the more I listen to it, and there are other moments like Bad Guy and Bury a Friend that I do find to be a bit more appealing, but it's still not enough to make this an album that I really enjoy. But at least it's not an album that I think it's that crap either. The main thing that drags this whole album back, in my opinion, is Billie Eilish herself. Her vocals on this thing sound really flat, really emotionless. I would say that I at least appreciate her vocals and her direction a bit more from the first time I've heard the album. I do think that her approach at some of the songs works really well, and I would say that another thing that makes it a little bit better is some of the experimental effects that can be put throughout her voice at certain points. But the main issue with Billie Eilish is that her vocals in this album are almost non-existent. They're barely apparent. She just sings in this ridiculously silent tone to the point where I wouldn't even entirely qualify this as singing, because the album doesn't really show me whether she has a good voice or not for her age. The whole album feels like she's almost ready to fall asleep in the mic. It's like an ASMR pop album, and the issue is that you have the same type of vocals going on and on and on for the entirety of the album. They sound like a really sleepy version of Lorde or Lana Del Rey, and in a sense it ruins some of the songs, because there are a lot of moments where the minimal instrumentation might not be something that exciting or that intriguing, but instead of adding something with her voice, she makes it feel even more passionless, and the songs just become more and more boring. This wasn't that much of a big deal for me with some of the first tracks like Bad Guy, Xanny and You Should See Me in a Crown, because I think it kind of fits with some of the dark aesthetics the album has. But also what makes the songs more eccentric is some of the build-ups and some of the switch-ups. Bad Guy, for example, towards the end of the song, it has a distorted trap beat out of nowhere. Xanny also has a nice build-up to the chorus, from starting with a really smooth jazzy feel to ending up in a more explosive chorus, even though the chorus comes far better and kind of drags out some of the appeal of the rest of the parts. Also, we have a kind of nice edgy approach, which is something that I wanted from this album, considering of course that I'm a huge fan from the edgy aesthetic of Crybaby, but the album is neither that emotional nor as edgy as I would like it to be. Maybe it's because she's only 17 and she doesn't have that much of an experience on some certain things, but I do think that some of the themes on the lyrics are actually well put together and not that bad or just corny. But there are still moments that I think there could be put a bit of more effort to it, or just that they would change the direction. For example, my main issue with some of the songs is that they're just unimaginative and uninteresting acoustic or piano ballads, that it makes it worse that they don't feel well put together with the vocals from Billie. Not only do they sound forgettable and uninteresting and boring, but Billie's approach on the vocals does not complement this kind of sound. They need some more energy, some more emotion, some more intensity, which is something that the album kind of lacks, with the exception of course of one or two tracks. But taking some other tracks, even though they might have a bit of a nice approach, they still do serve as some of the weakest moments. Of course, I'm talking about tracks like When the Party is Over, Ilomilo, Listen Before I Go, I Love You, and the uninteresting finisher, Goodbye. All of these songs that come to the second half serve as more mellow and less edgy tracks. They're way more typical and way more generic, whether that has to do with some minimal production, whether they're like sort of ballads that I'm not really a fan of, and I also don't think they fit really well with the approach and the vocals of Billie Eilish. Like I said before, Bury a Friend is actually a song that kind of grown with me and has become one of my kind of favorite moments of the album, being a little bit more experimental. So yeah, I'm still kind of disappointed with the debut from Billie Eilish, because I think we didn't really get the potential she has. At least the production is there. There are some nice moments with some cutting edge production. If the album had more intensity and more emotion, it would be a far more fulfilling listening experience. But unfortunately, it has a major lack in this departure. I at least kind of appreciate it a bit more from the first time I've heard it, but it's still not that enough. I hope that at least her next project will be better, because I truly see the potential. I'm going to give this album a 4 plus out of 10. What's your opinion on this album? Like it? Dislike it? Why? And what do you want me to review next time? Let me know down in the comments. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe for more content like this. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye.